Claude McKay was a Jamaican writer and poet whose viewpoints and achievements set the tone for the Harlem Renaissance. He was one of the leading inspirations in the Harlem Renaissance and was influential in bringing about the Negro literary Renaissance. McKay was born Festus Claudius McKay in Sunnyville, Clarendon Parish, Jamaica. He was born on September 15, 1889, and was the youngest of 11 children. He was sent to live with his oldest brother, a school teacher, so that he could be given a good education. In 1907, McKay came to the attention of Walter Jekyll, an English gentleman residing in Jamaica who became his mentor and encouraged him to write most of his dialect verse. Then, in 1912, McKay moved to the United States and enrolled at Tuskegee Institute in Alabama. It is here that he first encounters the harsh realities of American racism, which was the basis of his writing. He then left Tuskegee for Kansas State College, where he studied agriculture. After college, however, he did not find much success in writing and was forced to take a series of menial jobs. He eventually became the editor at The Liberator and wrote various articles for left-wing publications. In 1919, he moved to England and then back to the U.S. in 1921. He is most famous for his work that he wrote in the early 20s, especially his early sonnets and lyrics. After this, he began a 12-year trip through Europe, the Soviet Union, and Africa. This period was marked by poverty and illness, and eventually in 1934, he was forced to move back to the United States, where he lived in Harlem. Up until this point in his life, he had been a socialist and communist. However, in the 1940s, he embraced Catholicism instead and worked for the Catholic Youth Organization. He was accepted to the Federal Writers Project in 1936. He then died in Chicago on May 22, 1948, from a myocardial infarction. Claude McKay was most famous for his early work. He published 2 volumes of dialect verse called Songs of Jamaica, 1912, and Constab Ballads, 1912, which recorded his impressions of black life in Jamaica in Jamaican dialect. During the period of racial violence against blacks, known as the Red Summer of 1919, McKay wrote one of his best-known poems, the sonnet If We Must Die. He also wrote Baptism, The White House, and The Lynching, all sonnets. These, along with If We Must Die, are examples of his finest protest poetry. Harlem Shadows is his most significant poetry collection. Home to Harlem, 1928, was a critically acclaimed novel, but was controversial because of its frank portrayal of the underside of Harlem life. McKay's writing is most notable because he used it to show the injustices of black life in America. His poetry is also notable because he wrote with the use of passionate language, no matter what the subject was. Some fun facts about McKay are that he was a socialist and during the 20s developed an interest in communism. Also, he could not make a living out of writing and instead found work building ships. I read a book of his poems titled Complete Poems, which I enjoyed. However, the Jamaican dialect is very heavy. I would suggest reading one of his most famous works, Home to Harlem, which is an entertaining novel that is also inspiring. Here is a list of some more of his works.